Alicia Magnus Lewis here with the Los Angeles Tribune, and I'm delighted to have this conversation that's all about inspiration and disruption with Angela Kung. Now, Angela, you do so much, but you have the Angela Kung Acupuncture and Wellness Center that's based in California. How did you get to a point where you decided that you wanted to open your wellness center, and what is it fully focused on?
Wow, well, that's a loaded question because really this began from birth, I feel like. I feel like we have a purpose, when we come into this world, and it takes time for that to sort of develop into who we become. And we have to go through some challenges first, so I feel like I've kind of gone through my fair share of a crazy journey.
Yeah.
And once I decided that I was going to go and really be on this healing journey for my own self, that's when I decided to become, a healer, so to speak. I started seeking different ways to, help people. Well, really, it started this way. At 6 years old, I told my parents I was going to be a doctor. And so being in America and being in an immigrant family, you are exposed to Western life, and so you think that being a doctor means being an MD.
Yeah.
And so my whole life I was kind of set up to go to medical school. But when I went through some challenges, like I mentioned, these were spiritual, traumatic challenges that affected me mentally and emotionally, and of course physically as well, because that always manifests too. In college and undergrad, when I was doing the pre-medical program, I realized that even through all of my rounds of volunteer work with children's hospitals and different things that I was doing, I wasn't able to find help in this world. I wasn't able to connect and resonate with this type of work. Doesn't mean that it's not needed. It just didn't feel right for me to be that. And I was hurting in many ways. And so seeking Western medical help was not really meeting my needs. I felt like I was sitting in a waiting room for 45 minutes and then finally seeing a doctor or maybe a surgeon or somebody, and they would maybe talk to me for 5 minutes and hand me a prescription. Now, because things weren't working and I was still spiraling, that's when I decided that there had to be something else. And so that's when I began to kind of be in a holding period at first with ice skating. That was my thing. I was coaching and performing, but I was very unhappy and I was hiding it. So all of that was faking it, and I was faking it so much. I was so depressed inside, and I decided that finally I was going to find out if there was another way. And that's when I kind of cried out for help, like, God, if you're really there, if there really is a God, please help me, because I cannot live this life the way I've been living it. And if you have a way for me, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whatever you want me to do. And I really believe that this turning point at the age of 26 was the beginning of all the things that you had just asked and how I became to open the center. It was a huge conviction and a need that other people needed this too.
Yeah.
And that was where my heart laid, and I knew that going off on my own and creating a center rather than working for somebody was what the higher power wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Because it had to be done a certain way. It had to be done through a spiritual healing, not just let me put some needles in. Now, acupuncture is an energy art. It is a beautiful medicine, all encompassing with the Chinese herbs and everything. And of course, I love this medicine, but there was something deeper.
Yeah.
And so I continued to go in further and further, and the patients that I would see really helped me define what spirituality and why spiritual work is so important in healing.
Yeah. So for you then, because that is such a beautiful kind of expression of your journey going within. For you, when you were asking the questions about what do I do next and how do I shift, how did you figure out what was that voice that you wanted to listen to and lean into and act on? And what was maybe the voice of the noise, people around you, what you thought you wanted for your life? How did you figure out how, because sometimes people struggle. They may say, okay, I'm not happy right now, this isn't working, but they're not sure where to go next or what voice to listen to know like what's my voice within and what's without. So how did you figure that out for yourself?
That is such a great question. And when I look back at that time, I was hearing a lot of negative noise and a lot of distracting noise that was keeping me misaligned from seeing the truth of my life's purpose and path. And so during that time when I was really feeling distraught, it was, first of all, covered in shame. I was feeling afraid to expose that I wasn't feeling right, or that, certain things weren't going well in my life and I wasn't happy. And when I finally did mention that, in fact, to my mom, when I had already been suffering from suicidal thoughts for quite some time, she kind of pushed it down and said, in a way, her tone was like, how dare you? Because we had everything. We had, from an immigrant family coming to America, we had, everything that they could give us. And so I was disrespecting and shaming the family by exposing the fact that I was going through troubled times emotionally. And so the way that I eventually, and this is kind of morbid because I had so much negative and darkness thinking and journaling, and I was sort of like in this horrible dark cycle of negative thoughts that it was very much leading me towards the one-way track of like, okay, go kill yourself or something like that. And so when I made a decision that I was not going to kill myself. In fact, maybe I will admit I was a little coward too. I was afraid to do that, but I didn't want to live. I didn't want to be here. So what I did was I just said a little prayer, and it wasn't, I don't even know if I would call it a prayer at that point because I wasn't really spiritual at that moment in that time, but I said, whatever I'm going to do next, I have to just find the next step of the ladder because I can't go down any further. It was like the rock bottom. So I started to sort of keep living, and it was hard. It was like muddy. It was like, going through quicksand, feeling like I'm still not able to catch that next break. But there was a moment where I began to read, and I began to see different things that exposed me to like something that would flicker a light in my soul. And I remember seeing a book that had a title with intuition on the cover, and I thought to myself, intuition, I used to have something like that. Like it's been gone. I just realized that I have none of that. I feel like I'm in blackness.
Like I went cold.
Cold, completely. I used to be able to know who was going to be at the party tonight, or I used to be able to know, like, I would be chosen for something, and it was such a cool thing to have, not knowing it was special. Like it was something that I was tapping into or that I had as a gift. And so I began to follow, as I read this book, my intuition more. And that's what I want people to know, is that the minute you make a decision and you turn on that light bulb to tap into your deeper powers of intuition, that's where you can really connect to the spirit, to the lighter spirit. And I mean that because there's opposing forces here going on, right? So that's what I would say is find your intuition, trust yourself, and know that there is something else, and you can find the light. You have to make that decision that you're going to. And that goes along with everything that I teach still today. You have to make a decision that you want something, that you want to heal, that you want to think better thoughts, that you want a better life.
That intentionality.
Yes.
And walking with that. So for you, you have your acupuncture and wellness center, and you're explorative. I'll say that you ask questions to really get to know someone, maybe not on the surface level, but really figure out what may be working in their life or what they may be experiences, and you bring that into the work that you do. Why is it important for you to really ask some of the questions that you ask when you work with people that you're working with?
Because I consider myself a spiritual detective. And without that deep key and unlock sort of detective work, we're never going to get to the root, right? So when I see people, I can see their aura, their energy. I can see sort of where they're blocked and where they're hurting. And when they start to tell me maybe their physical ailments or their emotional ailments, I begin to ask questions that allow me to dig deeper. And one of my favorite things to do with a new patient is to really sit down for quite some time, whether we have an hour or 2 hours even, to really look at their entire life of traumas. I know this sounds like, oh my gosh, some people are like, I don't want to pull these cans out of the worms out of the can, you know, because it's too much. But what I do with them is I start to clear things out of their past that no longer is baggage that is emotionally charged. So trauma work is not about deleting a memory. It's about clearing the pain and the suffering and how you felt and reacted at that time that didn't leave your body. So the shock and trauma, or you know, the sadness or the deep grief the day your dad left you, or you know, all those things, even losing a loved one, all of those things have they sort of stay in the body.
The memory in your body.
Yes.
Your body keeps score.
So if patients are willing to go there, we can start really shifting their energy space, and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel lighter. Maybe they're ready to move on to find new love again. Maybe they can now like increase their joy with, you know, maybe move forward in their career. So people have blocks. I like to ask, what are your goals? And as their doctor or even coach, you know, if you would call it that, I love to talk about seeding the goals. What is the goal that we want to achieve? Because when I am seeing from a spiritual perspective what they can be and what their highest potential is, I start to speak it into them. And from that point on, in the very beginning, that's the same time that I'm doing the questioning, and then we do all the clearing. So when you say, you know, how is the questioning important? It is so important. And because I am very skilled at it through experience,
your own experience,
I know exactly what to ask and where to go. And through something called muscle testing, which a lot of people know about, I use that to guide me. So it's a spiritual guide for me too, as you know, oh, something is coming up when you were 3 years old. And they'll be like, yes, how did you know? That's when my parents broke up. Or something like this. So when I tap into the higher, into their spiritual energy, I am getting a lot of answers with the help of muscle testing.
Wow, that's a phenomenal kind of holistic experience. So Angela, you have your acupuncture and wellness center, but more recently you went through an experience that was part of your own journey, and you were crowned Mrs. Asia USA. Can you talk about what really encouraged you to take that journey and walk into that experience, and share a little bit more about the platform that you shared about as you were going through that experience? Because I know it's very big on women and empowerment, but how did you get to that point, and why did you want to share your message in the way that you did?
Well, the journey itself of going into a pageant was never on my radar. And I never thought, oh my gosh, I want to do a pageant, or I wish I did a pageant. It was more in response to, God, I am here for you. I am your worker bee. Tell me what you want me to do, and help me along the way to strengthen myself to be that person that can do the work for you. And so along the way, I am always rewarded and blessed with the healing that I need to be strengthened as I continue to do his work. So when I was last year in a place of a little lower confidence and self-esteem about my body, and about like some of my anxieties that were coming up, because as you know, going through a healing journey, there are going to be triggers, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you take 2 steps forward and you're feeling great, and then you might take a step back and
what just happened?
like, oh my gosh, why am I going backwards?
Yeah.
And so I had this little backwards moment, and I remember praying and asking, help me not take this step back ever again. Like I'm done.
A declaration.
I'm declaring that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm done, and I just want to feel 100% in my body and confident. And through some of the traumas that I had gone through, some of that being sexual trauma, there is dissociation. So you step outside of your body, you know, and you become disconnected and out of alignment. And so you lose your self-esteem, you lose your value and your confidence. And that's what I help a lot of women with as well. But I was here in this moment at this step of the ladder for me. And I said, you know, that prayer. And just a few days later, I meet someone who had won the crown a few years previously. And she stopped me and she said, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. You should run for Mrs. Asia USA. You could win if you work hard. And I thought, oh, well, I'm more of a doctor type. I'm not really a pageant person. And so, but we got to talking and we sat down, and I remember she ordered some food and we were sitting, and I was just getting to know her, and she was telling me about the pageant, and I had this huge whoosh come through my body, and I am very, I would say, like antenna opened and connected to spirit. So I knew right then that God was saying, do this pageant.
This is time.
And I remember saying to her, you're going to think I'm crazy, but God's asking me to do this pageant. And so I knew it was for a purpose. I knew there was something that he was going to gift me in the process, which was the empowerment, which was everything that I was going to get out of it. I mean, earning the title and everything was huge for me, but it's more the platform it was going to give me for the next level of all the work that I had set out to do since I started to follow God. So coming into this title was really, I mean, it's still evolving into what's opening for me. I'm feeling doors opening that really may not have been there had I not jumped into this new self. I feel like when we have the courage to go to the next level,
take that step,
there is so much reward. So I challenge a lot of my patients and work with them to strengthen them, to get them to the next level. And I love being able to see that for them and then have them achieve it. In the same way that when I worked with my pageant coach, she could see me winning, she could see where I would be, and I was able to achieve it and manifest that. So I think the coaching and having someone support and elevate you in many different areas of your life is super important.
For people to see that in you, but then also to know when it's your time, it's your time. Because you started maybe a little bit later in the process than some of the other women in the pageant, and you won, and now that you are the reigning Mrs. Asia USA, what is that message that you want people to be aware about that's from you and from your heart?
So the message is never give up on yourself, even when you're at the lowest of the low, even when you don't think that you belong on this earth and that you have nothing to offer. Believe in yourself, have faith, and believe in the miracle that you are, because miracles can happen for you as much as they have happened for me. And that is my message, that from where I was in the darkness to where I am today, full of light, on a stage in front of people, you know, really receiving the unconditional love from above and enjoying my life and learning that I am able to live in love and joy. I want people to know this, that you can heal from anything. And being someone who's done that and seeing so many patients evolve into that empowered place is seriously the message I want this platform to be, for me to help others see that too.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And Angela, you're in the Pillars of Power movie, the 5 Hidden Secrets to Success, produced by the Los Angeles Tribune Film Division. What was it in your spirit that said, this is a film that I want to be a part of? This is a message that I want to share with the world?
Well, when I first learned of it, first of all, it was a divine intervention.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to meet the beautiful Alicia when I was feeding the homeless the day before Thanksgiving last year.
LA Mission.
Yes, and what a beautiful divine moment when you interviewed me, and I felt the Spirit. And when you asked me the question, and I answered the question, I could feel my heart just opening, and I could feel you resonating with me. And we were here in this other world together before we were sort of like, you know, the other interviewer that was with you came in and then asked a different question to Miss Asia USA. Yeah. And right then, even my husband noticed that something was going to happen. He felt it. He felt there's something special about Alicia. And I felt it too. And when you said, I feel like there's something for us to be doing in the future, and we connected, that was seriously the best moment of that day for me. It was a God moment. It really, really was. And I will say, when you then later sort of asked me if I wanted to be a part of a project that was actually already closed up. The cast was done, and that was seriously an honor for me. So thank you so much. But when it all kind of came through, and you know we had to go through some barriers, and it all opened, the doors all opened. Yeah. I did feel a significant, God calling of alignment, of showing up, being in the right place at the right time in my life to share His light. And I know that people will hear what we have to say to up-level their lives in a way that they are not seeing or hearing from their loved ones or family members, or not recognizing as being possible. So we are here, and me especially, as what I know, the wisdom that I carry today has to be shared. And I know that God has wanted me to do the platform of Mrs. Asia USA to then do more things. And this is one of them. This is something that I feel so empowered, and my intuition is always working. So even before the pageant came, I felt like there was a movie. I felt like there was something coming, and here it was. And so, like, my intuition is back. Yay!
It's not cold. It's hot.
Not cold.
It's vibrant.
I love it, and I'm so happy that you live in that space, Alicia. You really do. And when I met you, I just have to tell you, I saw so much light and so much just God-given raw love.
Thank you.
And you carry that for the world. It's not, it's not like, I don't want to say the word selfish, because I love the word selfish now, because everyone needs to be a little more selfish.
No is a full sentence.
Yes, no is a full sentence. Boundaries are good. But yes, you are just all about, sharing. Sharing is caring, giving more wisdom to people. And you are exactly where you need to be. I just feel so strongly about, your position in all of this. So thank you again for, opening that door for me and giving me that opportunity. But to be called to be in this movie is absolutely a heart calling. And I feel my soul just wanting so much to touch as many souls out there as possible. And that is really the reason why I'm here.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And for you, how do you pour into yourself? How do you rejuvenate? How do you clear space so that you can listen? Because it sounds like you get a lot of channeled messages, and you have a really clear communication channel with Spirit, with God. So what are ways that you pour into that and nurture that so that your intuition is as vibrant as it is right now?
Well, for the general ways and the general people, what everyone can do, I would say hot baths with salts, and meditation time, waking up early before the dawn, because that energy at that time is silent and it's golden, and it's the most beautiful time to connect with your higher power. And also to continue asking and being in alignment with God. So this is what I truly believe for people to do to stay in their right place, because it's very easy to fall off and be distracted, is to always talk to your higher power as if you are having just an open conversation, and you will get responses. You will know. You might not know what the response is today, but when you open that muscle and you start using it, like you go to the gym, you will start to be so strong in this is a yes, this is a no. And anyone can learn muscle testing, really, anyone. So you could learn to do that and sort of get sort of an intuitive yes or no. But some people feel it in their gut, and some people hear things, and some people have dreams and they get downloads. So I want people to be able to do that. But for me, how do I also stay in my high frequency? One of the things people ask me is, how do you do all this and not take everyone's stuff home? Because, you know, when you're seeing patients after patients who have all these difficulties and difficult stories and drama, right? I actually have gotten to a place, and I will share, a while ago, yes, I took the migraine home, I took the knee pain, I never had knee pain, took that home. I would take, you know, even uterine bleeding one time, I went to the toilet and I thought, oh, this isn't mine. But because I don't attach fear to it, then it can leave. Okay, that's number one. Do not attach any fear to it. Number two, recognize its energy. Okay. Number three, energy that we compassionately and empathically give does not need to look like holding it for them. Okay. I am a vessel of healing. Therefore, when someone comes, I am a strong detective in that moment, and strongly I work through the healing process. But after that, it's in one ear, out the other. I might take notes because I need to know what's going on for next time, but it's gone. I cannot keep thinking. I do not. It's not like it's almost like a detachment. You have to remain detached, because you're here on a mission. If you falter and you fall over, how can you help others? Right? It's like being in war. Let's say you're fighting and then all of your friends are down, and are you gonna lay down and cry, or are you gonna stand up and continue fighting
and do what you need to do?
So in a way, this is how I have become so strengthened over the years, where I take nothing home. But if there is anything that lingers, I already know, oh, I'm carrying this person's, you know, sadness.
You can clear it out.
And then I can clear it for myself. Especially being a healer, I know how to do those things. But if someone is not a healer, I highly recommend that you do regular sessions that you need to keep cleansing, so that you can continue evolving and seeing what is the next wall you need to barricade down.
Angela, I'm loving this conversation. We're gonna have to come back here and have another one. In closing, what is a message you'd like to share with someone that they can implement today that can shift things for them or open up their mind or perspective to something that may be a little bit new to them but can help them down their journey of self?
Okay, well, I think what they should do is recognize that something that they thought was the truth in the way that they're thinking, or in the way that they think they have to do things, is not the truth. Does not have to be their truth.
Pattern interrupt their own thoughts.
Yes, pattern interrupt, and question yourself, question things.
And be curious.
Yes, and then say, what do I want? Write all those down. Write all those down and read them daily and say, that's my life, and that's how I think, and that's what I'm going to look like, and that's what I'm going to do. And start to focus on the bullseye, not the things that you don't want to be.
Wow. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Angela. We're excited to see you in Pillars of Power. I know that you're doing so much, and your platform is only increasing because you keep pouring light into the world. And for that, thank you. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.